Hello everybody, it's Bat and this is Satisfactory Worst Alternative Recipes 2021. Today I will be going over a list of 10 alternative recipes which I consider to be some of the worst in Satisfactory, so you know which ones to avoid. So, let's begin. First off, I want to say that most of these recipes might be useful in some scenarios, but most of the time these situations are very specific. But with that out of the way, let's start. Alternative recipe number 1 is buy a coal, and here is the recipe. This one is really just unnecessary when you have coal nodes with infinite supply spread across the map. Same thing goes for alternative recipe number 2, charcoal. If you should ever get these recipes, it should be in early or mid game. But there are a ton of recipes to prioritize over these. I'm happy these recipes are available and there are uses for them, but I would pick about 85 other recipes over these. I also want to say if there's anything you don't agree with in this video about the worst Satisfactory alternative recipes, please let me know in the comments below. Alternative recipe number 3 is fine concrete. Here it is. Number 4 is also a recipe for concrete. It is the rubber concrete recipe. Check it out. So, concrete is a very necessary and vital resource. Now come on now, there is an abundance of limestone on the map and the normal recipe is so simple, but these recipes make the whole process so much more complicated. With the rubber concrete recipe you have to involve oil, which is a fairly scarce resource. And fine concrete uses silica, which is created using quartz, which also is fairly rare, at least more so than limestone. Plus, both of these recipes are used in the assembler, unlike the normal one which is used in the constructor. This means the alternative recipes use more power. No matter how much concrete you need, you should be able to get by without these recipes. But if you still insist on using these, I recommend you use the wet concrete recipe instead, which is superior to both of these alternative recipes in most aspects. The 5th alternative recipe is the Seismic Noelisk recipe. It should be on the screen right now. And as you can see, it involves crystal oscillators, which right off the bat says it all. Crystal oscillators are pretty complicated to make, and it's obviously not worth the wait of making these just to be able to create your explosives more effectively. There's really no point in making your production line for Noelisks more effective in the first place. Also, go down and subscribe to my channel right now. There you will find tons of more premium Satisfactory content. Alternative recipe number 6 is the crystal beacon recipe. As you can see, this one also uses crystal oscillators, which is pretty inconvenient. And you also have to add coal to the production line, which is also a negative. These additions to the production line are simply not worth the 33% increase in output rate. Plus, the ordinary recipe can be used with only iron-based resources if you have the alternative recipe iron wire. By the way, I also have a video out on the best alternative recipes in Satisfactory. So if you want to check that out, it's in the upper right corner right now. My pick for the 7th alternative recipe is the automated miner. Here's the recipe, which as you can see is way more complex than the original one, which only uses 4 rods and 2 plates. The only thing we currently use these portable miners for are drones and automated miners, and I would say even if you wanted to have a miner on every node on the map, I wouldn't say it's worth using this one because it's just so much easier to do it manually. The 8th alternative recipe is the coated iron plate recipe. Here it is. As you can see, you use plastic to boost the production rate. This I don't think is necessary at all, because as I said earlier on number 3 and 4, I think it's foolish to involve a costly resource such as plastic to boost the production rate of something as standard and cheap as iron plates. Same thing goes for number 9, the coated cable recipe, which is very similar to recipe number 8. With this one you can save a fair bit of copper, but honestly it's not worth the cost of involving oil into the mix. Plus, you have to use the refinery, which is going to boost your electricity needs a lot. The 10th and the final alternative recipe is the Electrode circuit board. Here is the recipe. As you can see, it eliminates the need for copper from the recipe, but at the cost of replacing it with even more oil, which to a certain degree makes sense, but copper is such a common resource that it's simply not worth it. With the recipe you can keep the space the copper takes, but it slows down the process of manufacturing, takes up more space and draws more power.